Dr. McGarry, founder of the Every Black Lives Matters there in California, I believe. He might correct me on that. No, the Frederick Douglass Foundation. Also, excuse me. Sitting messing this intro up already. But he's author of a new book called Revealed, The Archetypes of American Politics. Now, as I said, this is a time when our country is deeply divided, and also people, as you've heard, being about woke. We've talked about that so many times here, and people continue to talk about these things. But we need to understand all of these things about where they come from and who has shaped these into the future that we are in right now ongoing. So let's go ahead and welcome Dr. McGarry onto the program. Sir, it's good to have you.
Brother Dustin, thank you for having me. Good to be here.
My pleasure, sir. So, as I was saying, we need to be really looking here into the future. And a way to go into the future is to understand the past and to understand the actors and to understand what they have done to get us here, how we have been molded to the current state that we are in. And you have done this with this book, as a matter of fact. So this is a good way for us to start to understand these, because when we get past the election, it doesn't stop there.
That's right.
You got to know what's going on here. So at the face of, as we sit here tonight, tell us a little bit about what you see going on here in the present state that's moving us into the future.
Yeah, good question. So first of all, the book is called Revealed, The Archetypes of American Politics, and it goes into the various archetypes. There's 3 there that are noted on the cover. I'll talk about those here in a second. But fundamentally, the way that I came about it was I started to look at, why are people so agitated when you say, look, I'm independent or I'm a conservative. I just want to vote different. I don't want to go down this crazy globalist Marxist track that we seem to be on. When you do that, they start, hurling pejoratives. You're a white supremacist, racist, white evangelical, white Christian national. It's like, why? I just want to vote differently. Why are you coming at me like this? Right. So I started to look at this, and I thought it was a strange phenomenon. It seemed illogical, irrational, and way over the top. Right. So when I looked at it, I found a quote by Malcolm X. And his quote was in a speech he was giving to the grassroots in 1963. So, and it was profound, and it really illuminates what we're going through right now. He says, look, I've taken a look at the life and the interactions on plantations, antebellum South, during times of slavery. And he says the kind of interactions, the types of characters that were on the plantation have actually spilled over into America. And, from the plantation, we're now spilling over into America. He says, look, the antebellum South, when you were on the plantation there, you had the overlord, which would be, the master of the plantation owner. And then you would have your house Negroes. And these are the ones who did the bidding of the overlord. So a lot of people don't really understand this, but there were, the overlord with his wife and a couple of kids on a large plantation with a lot of slaves. You couldn't really keep count or keep track of what's going on in the field. So you needed some snitches. You needed some slaves, but that were doing your bidding, people on your payroll, so to speak. That would be sort of the foreman looking over what's happening there and making sure that nobody escapes the plantation. Obviously, if you're a one man and you have, 20, 30 slaves, there's no way you can keep control of that. So you had these, what they called house Negroes. These are people that were closely associated with the family. They lived in the house with the family, in the attic or the basement. They ate with the family in most cases, or closely situated with the family when the family ate. They got the choice scraps off the table. For that, and of course, they got hand-me-downs from the plantation owner when the plantation owner had, outgrown some of his clothes or wanted to get rid of some clothes to give them to the house Negroes. Now, because of that, these house Negroes were recompensed, or they were compensated, because they had to keep control of the field Negroes. And these would be the ones out on the plantation actually doing the work. They had to make sure that they didn't escape. All the field Negroes really wanted was to escape. I mean, because they don't like being, no one likes to be enslaved or tortured or abused in any way. So the house Negroes are the one who did that. So that's sort of the three characters. Now, when you overlay that onto America, and especially American politics, you begin to see something quite illuminating, right? The pathologies are still being carried out today. You have your overlords, which would be the globalists. They be like the Soros and the Bezos and the Bill Gates and those types that are, trying to orchestrate and architect societies around the world. Then you have your house Negroes. And again, this has nothing to do with skin color, ethnicity, or anything like that. Anybody and everybody in America fits under one of these three categories. Then you have your house Negroes, which would be like academia, mainstream media, and all of the folks in that. And of course, you'd have then even, faith institutions that would fit in that. These are organizations that are committed to doing all they can. They'll call you names like Hitler, Nazi, fascist, like they've been doing over the past week for just wanting to assimilate at the Madison Square Garden. And they'll do anything and everything to guilt you, to shame you, to cancel you, to dox you, whatever it takes in order to keep you on the plantation. They cannot have people being free and thinking freely and being independent. And then you would have people like you and I, Dustin, that would be the field Negroes. We just want to be free. Look, lose me with the Marxist stuff. I don't want anything to do with globalism. I don't want any type of authoritarian or totalitarian rule over me. It's me and God. Let me just be free. And I don't care what you do. You can try to guilt me and shame me and all that. Lose me with that. I'm not that type. I just want to be free, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do, how I want to do it. So those would be the field Negro type. So the point is that these are pathologies that are carried out today. The reason why people are beyond logic, rationality, principles, morals, faith foundations is because they're acting out of pathology and not out of, something that, us normal people would say, oh, that makes sense that he or she made that decision. It makes sense that they're, using these pejoratives and calling names. It doesn't make sense because it is ideology and pathology that's driving them, not, rationality, logic, principles, or anything like that.
Absolutely. So, you really think about that what you're saying here, which is pretty profound. And then if it's even broken down into simple terms that everybody can understand here, that you're really put into these levels of things of the people that are involved. And you think about this, about how we have gotten to a point that you cannot argue together and have disagreements. And that in itself is a control factor there, that if you keep people divided and angry at each other, then there's no sharing of ideas that we can sharpen one another with, and destroy the ideologies and the wrong thinking that people are in with correction through discourse. And because of that, we are being controlled in that, angry at each other. Nothing progresses, and they can move us into a center solution that they have determined beforehand, right?
Exactly right, Dustin. Exactly right. The idea is that if they can create meta narratives that drive ideology and not principles, not rationality, not morals, not faith foundations, but a meta narrative that drives you into a way of thinking, then we can do away with. It used to be back in the day we could have conversations about politics, and we could respectfully disagree. Those days are no more. I mean, now when you have when you bring up politics and it's and one side, if you're not of the leftist, progressive, Marxist persuasion, you are, dismissed in very aggressive terms, right? Those days are over where we used to say, look, I respectfully disagree. We got a difference of opinion here. Let's remain friends. Let's go our separate ways. I mean, we have entire families that can't even speak to each other anymore because somebody supports Trump and everybody else supports, Kamala or just the leftist progressive mindset. So they dismiss, anybody that doesn't agree. And you're absolutely right. This is a way of really controlling the masses. If you can have us not being able to even reason together anymore, then you keep us divided, and you can keep us marching towards this progressive utopia, which has more to do with globalism, communism, Marxism generally, as opposed to freedom and independence.
Yes, exactly. So using this, what we see here, because this is what we need people to understand. We need people to understand about what they're being put into here, about how to understand if they are in these things so that they can begin to get out of them, to begin to see a different way of interacting here in our world if they want to better themselves or anything. Tell us more about what this book says to us and how you have divided this into all of these.
Yeah, so the book goes into a lot of detail about the various policies and schemes that have worked to undermine various institutions. So the book goes into, for instance, when Obama was in office, he reinstituted the Smith-Mundt Act. Now, it goes into what the Smith-Mundt Act was. The Smith-Mundt Act would allow us to do propaganda overseas. When Obama came in office, he says, no, we need to orchestrate this and reorganize the Smith-Mundt Act so we can do propaganda in the United States. From that time to today, we have seen horrible brainwashing and gaslighting by the media. I mean, even during the 2020 riots, they would stand out in front of the camera while everything in the background was burning up and gunshots were going off. They would say, oh, it's actually a peaceful protest. Everything's fine here in Minneapolis. And we would all be looking like, what? But they can do that now without any type of consequences because the Smith-Mundt Act allows the media to purposely and without any consequence propagandize and attempt to brainwash American citizens here in the United States. So that's what Obama did. That's why the media is so corrupt and actually bankrupt today. The other thing that it did is, another thing that I bring out is, why is academia 98 to 99% Marxist today? Well, what happened was Project Paperclip. A lot of people weren't even aware of Project Paperclip. Well, Project Paperclip, during the Hitler reign, we had a lot of his nuclear physicists that were scared. I mean, they were still diehard commies, but they were afraid of Hitler because he was so unhinged that they wanted to come to the United States. So we had 1,600 academics that were over the top intelligent. I mean, these were the top physicists in the world. And we brought them here and we gave them, safe harbor here in the United States. We made them citizens and we gave them our top jobs in our academic institutions. And for that, they gave us, insight on how to build the nuclear bombs and how to perfect our nuclear programs. But what happened was, from that time to today, so 90 to 100 years, we've had these top, well-heralded academics that have driven the Marxist mindset downward and throughout academia. So the reason why we have so many crazy Marxist professors these days, we send our kids there who are good, God-fearing children, and the first year they come back, they're crazy Marxists and atheists. The reason why is because we've had this mindset being infused for the past 90 to 100 years. So these are the things that have undermined our institutions, right? The other last thing I'd like to mention is the Negro Project. A lot of people aren't familiar with it, but some are. And this is Margaret Sanger, who was the founder of Planned Parenthood. But what she actually had a scheme. She realized that blacks weren't going to the abortuaries or abortion clinics as often as others. And she said, look, this is really designed to exterminate blacks. We need to get blacks in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the black leaders. We're going to go to the black churches and we're going to pay the black pastors $100 per sermon as they talk about the merits and the great exploits of abortion over the pulpit. They have to do it in a sermon. And black pastors were being paid $100 per sermon. This was in the early 70s. And so that's a lot of money. And so what we had then is the undermining of faith foundations by way of this scheme. These are the schemes that have undermined our ability to think rationally, thoughtfully, independently, because we've been sort of compensated to think differently. and leveraged, in these different institutions in different ways. And this is what's driven the made it more accessible and easier than for us to transition to ideologies and pathologies that drive us to ways of thinking, as opposed to us just, thinking independently and being able to rationalize our own mindset. So these are the types of things that are brought out in explicit detail in the book. All the dots are connected. It's footnoted. You can, everything's there. So your readers, viewers will be able to go. Again, it's at Amazon. It's called Revealed: The Archetypes of American Politics. The subtitle is Overlords, House Negroes, Field Negroes. Which one are you? Again, everybody in America fits into one of these three categories. And so it has nothing to do with skin color. It's not a pejorative. These are pathologies. These are mindsets, and that I'm pointing out in the book. And I would encourage your viewers to get it, because it really does help us. After you understand it, after you understand Joy Reid is really not a crazed nut job. She may seem that way. She's actually quite intelligent, very, educated, but she's under the pathology of a house Negro. She has to, her overlords, which are the media company and the globalists and all of that, give her a seat at the table so she can potentially go to Davos, and she definitely goes to the elitist parties and all of this. So she's being compensated to really, cast her pejoratives at people who are independent, people who are Trump supporters and this kind of thing, because she's trying to keep us on the plantation and guilt us and shame us for not being continuing to want to be there. And so, Joy Reid, Joy Behar, Bill Maher, Ben Stiller, Taylor Swift, all of these are of that syndrome, of the House Negro syndrome. They're compensated to do what they do. They have to guilt us and shame us. They have to toe the line because the overlords demand obedience, and you must keep everybody on the plantation.
Well said. Because it's all about this control of the mind and the people that they use to make that happen, because these elitists, these communists, these people never do the work directly themselves. They make the others do it for them. Right. And I think that as we move forward here, I was listening to something the other day, and this was, I thought, really, really cool. Now, they interviewed a husband and wife that came out of voting, and, it was a black couple. And when they came out, they interviewed, well, they didn't vote yet. They were about to go vote. And, so they interviewed one another, and they interviewed the wife first. And then the wife said, well, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. And then, so the person asked her, why? And she said, well, because I really like the idea of a first black woman president. Right. So, okay. She went out and she did some detail on that, whatever. It was kind of shallow because that's what she's been there. That's the only thing that she can see. So it's an emotional connection there. Yeah. So then they go to the husband and they ask him, who are you voting for? And he said, Donald Trump. Oh, well, you two are married. You're voting for two different people. Why are you going to vote for Trump? And he gave a logical answer and laid it out clearly that we have an economy that is in shambles. They have long lied to the American public to keep us against one another. They continue to keep me from being able to work and provide for my family. And I want somebody who I know that during the 4 terms he was in, I was better off at that point and I could do more. And you know what? She said that his wife turned around and said, right after that, I could see that. That's probably why we need to vote for him. It makes sense. Wow. The rationale there and the ability to talk that. That's where we need to get back to. And that's what we're trying to talk to about tonight. And what you have done here is revealed that of these things that's doing that. And in such a way that I think a lot of people would be really jumping to go and read because of the way that you word it, the way that you're saying it. People are interested in that stuff right now. And it's a good way to lay that out. So here going into the future, tell us one last question here. Going forward, what would you say to the Generation Z right now who has been in this very strongly compared to the rest of us who have actually tasted good times?
Yeah, so we have to understand that all is not lost. If we make the right decision here in the election, we'll be able to, we'll have a strong person in the White House who will actually be able to bring peace, honestly. He did it for 4 years. We had no wars prior. He'll be able to bring peace, at least quell the nuclear drums that are right now. You got 3 nuclear fronts right now. Could be potential nuclear Armageddon for everybody. And that would be China, Taiwan, Israel and Iran, and Russia and Ukraine. All hotspots, all at war right now. And you need somebody strong to sit down with them. Could you imagine Kamala going and trying to sit down with the Ayatollahs in Iran and try to bring peace between them and Israel? No, not possible. Would Putin even take her seriously? No, not possible. Do you think she could sit down with Xi and Xi would look at her with as if she's somebody? No, not possible. Would Trump be able to? Absolutely. They loathe him, but they respect him. And so that's what we need right now, a strong commander in chief. The other thing that we need is somebody who's actually done it before by way of his policy, energy policies, right? So energy is down. The economic policies of America are downstream from energy. If you can go ahead and drill and do all that he was doing before, then we're going to have inflation be significantly reduced, we're going to have jobs significantly be increased, and we're going to see economic prosperity again. So we have a person that has the right ingredients, that has the right mindset, that can actually think through logically how to put us back on the right track. We have to make the right decision. Generation Z is going to see another 4 to 7 or 8 years of prosperity as long as we do our part. And we need Generation Z to stand with us as we go to the ballot box on next Tuesday. Make sure we vote for the right guy.
Absolutely. So in closing, tell us how we can follow you, how we can learn about more about what you do. Tell us about your couple of organizations here, and again, how we can get the book.
Excellent. So you get the book from Amazon, and you can follow me on YouTube. I have Off the Plantation on YouTube. It's a YouTube channel. I do frequent videos there. It goes into a lot of details of the book and current events. So Off the Plantation, the journey toward freedom. So that's the YouTube channel, Off the Plantation, the journey towards freedom. All right. So you could find that there. Again, Revealed, you can get on Amazon. It's on Kindle and hard copy. And you can follow me. You can ask for me to come speak or whatever you want off of our website, everyblm.com. Every Black Life Matters. And the reason why we're Every Black Life, we're the righteous and faithful alternative to Black Lives Matter. We're anti-Marxist, we're pro-family, pro-fatherhood, pro-free markets and capitalism, pro-life 100%. And so we're everything that BLM is not. And we stand up for righteousness, and we stand up for faith and truth. So anyway, you can go to everyblm.com and get more information about us there.
Awesome. Dr. Mack, thank you for coming on with us tonight. This was very enlightening. Very, very good way to go forward here into the next segments, actually.